All right, let's talk about the other double-suited hands when we don't have an ace, and of course we're all unpaired. I'm going to use a filter here one more time in the Hold'em Manager. I'm going to say we have no pair and our hand is double-suited, but it does not have an ace. Here we go. And we're going to do the same thing in Monker Solver. I'm going to say we have a hand that is double-suited, doesn't have an ace, and doesn't have pairs. And we are 3-betting at 32.7%. You can see that I was 3-betting over the sample of 291 hands, 43% instead of 32%. And I'm going to go in detail about what I have been doing incorrect. And there actually is one category I've been absolutely misplaying, and it's going to be kind of embarrassing, but let's move into it. So first things first, we're going to have a look at the pre-flop chart here once again, and we're going to have a look at the first categories. I mean, here we have all very connected hands. They have 1 or 0 gap, and the only thing to notice here is that when you have the wheel, connectors, like those hands are even folds, like folds or calls, but definitely not 3-bets. Apart from that, when you have a hand that is double suited and perfectly connected or has 1 gap, we're going to be 3-betting. Let's have a quick look just into the bottom category, number 8. A reaction from the big blinds here. You can see there is some folding happening when we have the exact wheel cards 2, 3, 4, 5. But apart from that, bunch of calling with the hands that contain wheel cards, and then 3-betting with the ones that have 1 or 2 wheel cards, but generally 1 wheel card, like a 8, 7, 5, 4, for example, has some gap but has only 2 wheel cards, and then 1 wheel card for like an 8, 7, 6, 4. So the main reminder is, if we have a 2 or a 3 or 3 wheel cards in general, like those hands are usually calls. We can even fold hands like 2, 3, 4, 5. Me personally, with category number 8, I've definitely been doing some mistakes in terms of not folding at all, which is not a huge mistake, I think. But even like, embarrassing stuff like this one here, 3-betting with the 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, it's just, again, doesn't make sense. My opponent obviously opening 100% of his hands, but still, it is just not the way to go. And then 7, 6, 5, 3, been re-raising here as well. Seems to be incorrect to me. 7, 6, 5, 3. Let's just double check on that though. The 3 is just such a bad card. Yeah, it's on the close end, 55% 3-bet. So if the 3 would be a 2, it's not even in this category, but if we would say we have a hand, same structure, 6, 5, 4, 2. 6, 5, 4, 2. It's not in here. One sec. 6, 5, 4, 3. Even that type of hand is just going to be a call. Again, if you have 3 wheel cards in general, you just want to call. Doesn't matter how connected your hand is. Moving along, let's have a look at the next category that is in question. We will see here a category number 10, where we have a king and 3 connectors or a queen and 3 connectors. Of course, we're double suited as always. Let's have a look at category number 10 and trying to figure out like what are the key takeaways from Monker Solver. Looking here into category number 10, we can see it's the same story. I mean, in the double-suited region specifically, it's always the same story. The wheel cards are just calls when you have even connectivity. In the middling section, you can see like all those wheel cards and how they're being called. And then when we have higher cards and they're connected, you're just going to go for the 3-bet. Very often, 58% with category number 10. Let's figure out what I've been doing here in the past. I don't have a big sample on this one, I think. But again, low samples can still represent some key mistakes that happened. We see here a queen 6, 7, 4. I think this should be fine, or a mix. We only have 1 wheel card, but we have some gaps. Queen 7, 6, 4. Yeah, it looks like a mix here, 50-50. Other than that, we have hands like king 8, 6, 5. Those hands are obviously easy 3-bets. And then king 6, 5, 3. Those are the exact calls. Queen 5, 3 deuce. Those are calls. And it looks like generally I've been fine. I don't really see any mistakes here. This is a mistake, I think, or a mix. This is actually a mixed strategy. King 3, 4, 5 double suited. And whenever it is a mixed strategy, I would just make it highly dependent on your opponent. So king 5, 4, 3. It's around the 40% 3-bet. So looking into my opponent here, when I have low cards like this, I really prefer someone who is just passive and overfolding. It's not a value 3-bet, so to speak. My opponent here is opening 83%, never folding against 3-bets. And in 3-bet pots, he's folding 32, stabbing 35. So no major leaks here, really. I don't think this is the spot to or the point to exploit him. Also, when you think about the history of this specific match, I'm up here like over 10 buy-ins on this player. There's no need to just push it and trying to create those high variance spots, because you know that's exactly what he wants. He wants to double. He wants to win back the money. I should knit it down and only give action basically when I have a good hand, because he's going to be willing to give a lot more action than in a fresh match, so to speak. So no need to 3-bet that one. Easy 3-bet over there. King 7-6-5, of course. And again, like the main takeaway from this category number 10 is just the weird cards are not suitable for 3-betting. Now we get to a category that is actually completely misplayed on my end. We have the Jack and 10 high semi-connected hands. Let's just have a look here into the preflop chart. So 11 is Jack 10-9-6 until 10-7-6-5, 10-7-5-4. I mean, 3-bet at 43%. At high stakes, it's like 46%. But the point is, there's a lot of calling happening. Let's have a look what I've been doing with 11. I mean, those hands look great. Like they are somehow connected and double suited. And as you can see, I've been 3-betting those with 94% frequency. A massive mistake here. So let's figure this out. What was I doing incorrect? So the first thing I would figure out is what is the difference between the calling and the 3-betting hands. And the real difference here is just the amount of gaps we have. Jack 9-8-4 versus a Jack 10-7-6. It's just the quality of connection between all the cards. Sometimes it is because all 4 cards are connected, or sometimes it's because 3 cards are perfectly connected, or sometimes it's because we have 2 pretty nice hold'em cards. Let's say a hand like Jack 10-6-5. Although Jack 10-6-5 is kind of a weak hand. It's a mix here, but let's say Jack 10-9. I mean, Jack 10-9 is just a great hand, of course. 66% 3-bet. Here, 3 cards are working great together. Let's have a look at a hand that is being 3-bet that, you know, represents like 2 cards that work together, maybe a Jack 10-8-6, for example, and those type of hands. I would say this is a hand that sort of like more demonstrates how 4 cards work together in some way in fashion. We have no gap on top, pretty high cards in general. Then if you look at a hand, let's say like a Jack 7-6-5, like that works together as well, because 3 cards are working perfectly together. So it's really the quality of connection that matters a ton. Where are the gaps? How many gaps are there? How many high cards do you have? And if you look into the middling section here of the hands that are just being called, you know, 10-9-8-4, just a huge dangler in there. Jack 9-7-4, too many gaps, and the 4 is a bad card. Wait, is 4 a pattern here? 1 second. 4 is a 3-bet at 26% versus 45%, definitely a trigger point. But in general, just be aware that like a 10-9-8-5, again, the lack of connectivity so that not all 4 cards are working together, it's just a massive difference here. And I've been 3-betting way too many hands of those in the past. If you look down the road here, 10-7-5-4 is not a 3-bet. 10-8-7-4 is not a 3-bet. Jack 7-5-4, I mean, has a little bit better connectivity there. Let's have a look. Jack 7-5-4 is a mix, but generally not a 3-bet. And you know, if we have the perfect connectivity here, it becomes more of a 3-bet. But the low cards are generally bad, of course. If you have a 5 or a 4, again, wheel cards. And the lack of connectivity is really important here, and just staying qualitative. Like those type of hands are, they look a lot better than they are. Even in a heads-up match, you will flop hands that cannot value bet, flop, turn, river because of the lack of connectivity. They don't have an equity edge pre-flop. So I would say stay kind of cautious when your Jack and 10 high rundowns become disconnected, and just focus on the most qualitative ones. And yeah, I've been definitely guilty of overvaluing those hands in the past. I'm, by the way, going to give a random selection of a couple of hands to review after this video. In the next video, I'm just going to talk about double-suited hands and a quick recap of a random selection of hands, basically, just to show you guys how I'm training and how I'm becoming aware over and over again what the correct plays are. And I'm doing this by quizzing myself, and you're going to be in the mix as well. So let's move over though to the next one, which is category number 12, very weak 9 high and lower disconnected hands, or semi-connected hands, you can say. But because the cards are so low, they don't feature a Jack or a 10. They are only being 3-bet at 16%. So Only the premium ones. I don't think I've been doing too many mistakes, though a little bit of them, just tilt 3-betting, some random combos. But I want to talk about number 13 here on that note, 30% 3-bet. I have not been misplaying that either, but I just want to quickly give you guys an idea of number 13 and what is the key idea behind those hands. So talking about number 13, this is basically king and queen or jack high broadways, sort of like two hold'em cards, or not cards, two hold'em hands. And you know, hands like king 10 7 6 or king queen 6 5, king 10 5 deuce, two hold'em hands basically. The main key takeaway here is the high suits. They are very important. If you look at hands like king jack 7 6, it's the combination of the high suits and the high connectivity between the 7 6 and the king jack, and that gets lost in hands, let's say like king queen 8 deuce, of course, or king 10 7 deuce. Queen jack 8 3, it's not anymore as well connected or has high suits, but if you have those key elements, you can actually 3-bet. You can see here myself, I've been guilty of 3-betting stuff like this, which is not good. We want to focus on higher suits or better connectivity, and the jack 10 is not good enough here to go for it. We want to have a king queen 8 6. We would like to have something like a queen jack 7 5 with high suits potentially. I mean, queen jack 7 5 even seems to be kind of on the light end. Let's have a look. But the high suits, they add a lot of value. So queen jack 7 5, 57% 3-bet. With the high suits, around 55% 3-bet overall. So high suits are really the name of the game here, and the quality of connectivity. In the left-hand side, you can see also those wheel cards are always being flatted, just because wheel cards are bad, and probably is the main takeaway from the double-suited hands unpaired. Wheel cards are tremendously worse than we probably think. Even though our hand is double-suited, we have to be careful. And even the middling cards, you know, looking back at the 9, 8 high rundowns with gaps in there, be really careful not over 3-betting those combos, just because they have an equity disadvantage and problems value betting down the road. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to give you guys a random selection of a couple of hands in order to just train myself, and you guys can be basically trained at the same time. But obviously, you know, I would highly suggest you guys jumping in yourself and comparing the preflop ranges with your preflop ranges, individual categories, thinking deeper, rewatching hands, using either Monker Solver or the preflop chart to get a better idea and become really critical and precise about your ranges. So let's hop into the random selection.